The British could never have ruled Africa without a level of consent from Africans, you see. Now, whether that consent is achieved through coercion or through manipulation, you know, is different from if the consent is totally and completely voluntary, because you see some benefit in consenting in that. You see, it's a give and take, right? So you couldn't say that Africa and British rule, colonial rule, whether British or French or Portuguese or Spanish, whether you could say that that was like a win-win consensual relationship. It wasn't, So the aftermath of it, the post-colonialism and all of that, that exists today, which is what our governments are based on, which is what our democracies are based on, and all structures of governance, what they're based on, they still represent that coerced or manipulated consent as such. That means that in all areas of our qualification, all our degrees, all our diplomas are tainted by that quality or that characteristic of coerced consent, you see. And that is always to the detriment of Africa's progress. As long as that element exists, so that is why the words of Marcus Garvey are so important when he says emancipate yourself from mental slavery, because it is within that area of brain activity that the relationship that is of benefit to the West continues, you see. It has its time limit, and that time limit has come now. So we're able to put words in it and, out it in different ways. And that's exactly what we're doing. So in terms of us growing up as kids, education and all of that, a very serious area of it was the language, So language in school never really encouraged for lack of a better term, vernacular. It has a negative connotation, vernacular, but that's how we were told that our language was. Are you speaking vernacular? And when you speak vernacular, you have a prefect. So I was a prefect at one point. So the prefect walks around and, if you even trick people into speaking something, you go and speak something to them, you say something in Kiswahili or Chinyanja, and they answer back in the language, own language. Then you say, all right, now you get the moniker. That means that you write them down and you give them this necklace kind of thing. They say, okay, this one has spoken vernacular today. And so nobody wants to be caught with that necklace, so you're always trying to put it onto somebody else, right? So that's the trick. You just say, hey, habari gani? And you say something to somebody, whatever. Hey, mzee, namnaje? And then he answers, you say, he spoke vernacular, yeah, take it. And then you write them down on the list, right? So you pass the list. You pass the list and you pass the, so nobody wants to be caught with that one because it's extra punishment if you're the one who ends up with the with the list and the necklace or the bracelet or whatever, that the teacher would give you. And the teacher would have been gone. You don't know where the teacher's gone to. They're probably gone off somewhere. And wherever they are, they're speaking vernacular, but they're teachers. They're not speaking English, that whatever they're doing, whether they're hitting on each other or whatever, but they're gone. The teachers would always leave class, man. Always leave class. It was just strange, but it seemed as though the teacher would teach a few things, and then before you know it, the teacher said, all right, now I'm gone, and, and then leave the prefect in place to really, to watch the other students. So it's not nice being a prefect. You make so many enemies. So by the time the teacher comes back, then she looks at the list. Before you know it, you're all lined up. You get your caning, or they make you kneel down on the ground. Sometimes they've been mean enough and put some stones where you're gonna kneel so that the the stones that kind of like, they hurt your knees. And you make you kneel on that. Yes, yes, school. Now at this moment, we're talking 1979, 1980. In Africa, my school. My schools, my different schools that we went to. And those are colonial torture methods, that our teachers and everybody was put through when they go through the colonial, whether the camps, or the prisons, whatever. It was a slave master mentality way of doing it. So we had that in our education. Capital punishment to that level, you understand? If not that, then they make you go dig a big hole, a large hole, and then you have to fill it in again. So you spend a whole day just digging a hole, digging a hole. After you dug the hole, so now fill it in, and then you fill it in. All those things are things we got from the British Army and everything. They put that into our school system. So discouraging our language in that way, it was normal, so that now people kind of like feel discouraged, feel bad about ourselves, feel bad about our language, and then the other thing is answering questions. A lot of brilliant, smart kids would not participate in class because they would have the answer, or they would have the idea or the opinion, but they would not express it because they were afraid to mispronounce the words in English. Because the minute you do that, the whole class is on you. He said soldiers, just, and then for the rest of the day, they'll just tease you with that name. If you just, I remember one brother, his name was Charles, and he was gonna read the word gorilla, like a gorilla, not gorilla, but gorilla, warrior, gorilla, freedom fighter, gorilla, and he pronounces it Querilla, and everybody just went like Querilla, Querilla, Querilla. So for the next week or so, everybody goes, hey, Querilla, 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 so just the nervousness in itself would make you, it would make you mispronounce a word. And from the time you mispronounce it, that's you. You're gone. You're finished. So that would discourage people from engaging in class and being part of it. So that whole thing. And then when somebody speaks something language, you'd all be boasting like, hey, you're using bombastic words, these very complicated words. There's a bombastic word, bombastic, Mr. Bombastic, elastic, So I'm saying all of this to emphasize why culture and language is the right basis on which to build our future socioeconomic structures, education curriculums, and all those things. So that is very important when we're going to be discussing things at NEPAD at Kayesa. Blessed love. See you there.